She spent 10 years building her father's company, then discovered he secretly gave it all to the sister who hadn't shown up in a decade. Would you forgive a betrayal like that? What would you do if you spent 10 years building your family's business, only to discover they secretly gave it all away to your sister? Today's story will leave you questioning everything you think you know about family loyalty. Meet Sarah. She's 32, lives just outside Denver, and for the past decade she's been the backbone of her family's construction company. While other kids dreamed of becoming astronauts or doctors, Sarah had one goal: turn her dad's small construction business into Colorado's biggest building empire. Picture this: an 8-year-old girl who could tell the difference between blueprints and 3D models. By 12, she was spending entire summers at the front desk answering phones and organizing files. Every time a client complimented her work ethic, her father would beam with pride and say, "This girl's got what it takes." Those words weren't just praise, they felt like a promise. A promise that one day, everything would be hers. So Sarah made the ultimate sacrifice. She turned down 3 incredible job offers from major firms in Seattle, Houston, and Atlanta. Instead of starting her own career journey, she walked straight back into her father's office after graduation. No honeymoon period, no time to breathe, just pure dedication. And boy, did she deliver. Sarah was the first one in every winter morning, turning on the lights in that freezing office. She was the last one out during busy seasons, sometimes sleeping on the office couch with nothing but a notebook as a pillow. She memorized every major client's name, their anniversaries, even their pets' names. That's dedication, right? But here's where it gets interesting. Sarah didn't just maintain the status quo, she revolutionized everything. She moved their entire record system from dusty paper files to sleek digital platforms. She recommended project tracking software that cut execution delays by 40%. Under her leadership, revenue nearly doubled in just 4 years. Now, you might be wondering about her personal life. Well, what personal life? 2 serious relationships ended for the exact same reason. You love your job more than you love me. Harsh, but maybe they had a point. Sarah missed her best friend's wedding to negotiate a $1 million contract. Her apartment was basically just a place to shower and change clothes. But she had no regrets. Every sacrifice felt like an investment in her future. She believed every late night, every missed dinner, every skipped holiday was building toward the moment her father would hand her the keys to the kingdom. Then everything changed on one cloudy Tuesday afternoon in April. Sarah's phone rang during a board meeting, something that never happened. It was her mom, and she sounded different. "Honey, your sister's home. Can you come for dinner tonight? The whole family should be together." Her sister. Let me tell you about Jessica, 2 years older, the family's golden child who dropped out of college to become a photographer in Prague. While Sarah was grinding 16-hour days, Jessica was living her best life in Lisbon, then Bali, then New York. She'd missed every Christmas, every birthday, every family milestone for almost a decade. That evening, Sarah sat across from Jessica at their childhood kitchen table. Jessica looked effortlessly elegant in a flowing white dress, hair casually messy in that expensive way rich people achieve. "You're incredible," Jessica said with a smile. "Dad talks about you constantly, how you're brilliant, how clients adore you, how you keep everything running smoothly." Sarah smiled politely, but something felt off about Jessica's tone. There was an edge to it, like she was already planning something. She found out what that something was the very next Monday. Her father called Sarah into a side meeting room. Jessica was already there, coffee in hand, looking like she owned the place. "I'd like to introduce Jessica's new role," their father announced. "Starting today, she'll be our brand creative director. She'll help reshape our company identity, our presentations, our entire approach to clients." Sarah felt something crack inside her chest. For 8 years, she'd carried the company on her back through a pandemic, financial crises, and countless emergencies. But Jessica, who'd been home for exactly 1 week, got a grand introduction with fanfare Sarah had never received. Within a month, Jessica became the star of every meeting. Every presentation now featured her redesigned logo, her playful fonts, her inspiring color palettes. Their father, who used to refuse changing their website because the old one works fine, now praised Jessica publicly. "She's brought fresh energy to our company," he'd say. Meanwhile, Sarah still handled everything that actually mattered: deadlines, contracts, quarterly reports, HR disputes. But their father's attention had shifted to where the ideas were shinier, the colors brighter. Sarah felt like the reliable workhorse being overshadowed by the flashy sports car. But the real betrayal was still coming. One afternoon, Sarah noticed something odd about the Everpine project files, a massive townhouse development she'd been managing. Her father claimed he'd sent the original contract to legal, but there was no copy in their system. That broke his golden rule of always keeping photocopies. So Sarah went down to the basement archive room, the dusty place where old files went to die. She opened drawer after drawer, searching through stacks of paperwork, when she found something that changed everything. A black document folder, with no clear label, tucked between some old files. The front read, "Share transfer, April 17th. That was only 4 months ago. Sarah opened it with curiosity that quickly turned to horror. Transfer of 72% of Franklin shares to Jessica Morgan. Remaining 18% retained under Franklin. 10% to Linda Morgan. No mention of Sarah. Not one line. Not a single footnote. Her hands went cold. The room started spinning. She had to grip the shelving just to stay upright. Everything was legally binding, notarized, stamped, dated. While she'd been working late nights and missing family dinners, they'd been secretly planning to cut her out entirely. Eleanor, the longtime office manager, appeared behind her. "What are you looking for?" "You knew about this, didn't you?" Sarah's voice cracked. Eleanor's guilty expression said everything. "Your father planned to tell you when things settled down. He thought you'd understand." "Understand what? That he quietly gave away the entire company to my sister?" That night, Sarah sat in her apartment, document in hand, feeling like her entire world had crumbled. She remembered every time her father had said, "This future is yours." She'd believed him with every fiber of her being. In return for that belief, she got betrayal, notarized and signed. But instead of breaking down, something else happened. Sarah got angry. And anger, when channeled right, can be incredibly powerful. She made a decision that would change everything. If the company was no longer hers, then they no longer had the right to assume she'd keep it running. If they chose Jessica, then Jessica could carry the weight. The next morning, Sarah did something she'd never done in 10 years. She called in sick. Instead, she spent the day planning her exit strategy. That evening, she showed up at the family dinner with the share transfer document in a black folder. She placed it on the table, without saying a word, and watched their faces as they read it. "Strange," Sarah said, her voice ice cold. "A decision this huge, and no one thought I should be told." Her mother stammered something about the right time. Her father called her too emotional. But Sarah was done playing nice. "Don't talk to me about emotion, when you're the one who signed me away," she snapped. "I'm the one who pulled this company through financial crisis, renegotiated contracts, and turned losing projects into profits. But the person who gets executive control is the girl who's been back less than a year." The silence was deafening. "I'll ask one question," Sarah continued. "Would any of you have ever told me the truth if I hadn't found that document?" More silence. "Thanks, that's all I needed to know. Starting tomorrow, I'm no longer working for the company." And she walked out. But here's where the story gets really interesting. 3 days after Sarah officially resigned, Eleanor called her with urgent news. They were about to present the Everpine project, the very project Sarah had developed over 2 years, the one her father had called too risky and told her to shelve. Sarah snuck back into the office and watched through the conference room window as Jessica presented her exact proposal, word for word, chart by chart. The only difference? Jessica's name was on every slide as the creative director. They hadn't just stolen her inheritance, they'd stolen her work. That's when Sarah made the call that would bring everything crashing down. She demanded a meeting with her father at a neutral location. "Tomorrow, 6 p.m., or I'm sending all of this to Everpine's partners and their legal department. Your choice." The next day, Sarah laid out all the evidence, original files, timestamps, emails, everything proving the work was hers. "If you're going to say this was joint creative effort, I'll print out every draft I sent, every rejection I got, and bring it to the investors' table," she said. Her father tried to justify it as strategic decision-making, combining her execution skills with Jessica's presentation abilities, but Sarah wasn't buying it. "You stole from me," slapped Jessica's name on it, and called it strategy. "If that's how you plan to run the company, prepare for legal action." She gave him 2 days to remove Jessica's name from the project and provide a written apology. Otherwise, she'd go public with everything. And then, something beautiful happened. Everpine's investors called Sarah directly. They'd suspected something was off about the presentation and wanted to confirm who the real project lead was. When Sarah explained the situation, they made their position crystal clear. "We won't sign anything unless you're on the leadership team. We agreed to partner because of you, not because of the family name." That phone call was the domino that brought everything crashing down. Within hours, Everpine withdrew their bid, a $9 million project with potential expansion across 3 states. Other subcontractors started pulling out over payment concerns. The company Jessica was supposed to inherit was falling apart. Sarah's mother called, pleading, "Are you really going to let it all fall apart?" "I'm not letting anything fall apart," Sarah replied calmly. "They did this to themselves. I'm just no longer willing to clean up after them." But Jessica reached out with a different approach. She admitted she was wrong, that the proposal wasn't hers, and that she'd been too weak to push back against their father's instructions. More importantly, she revealed that their father was willing to negotiate Sarah's return. Here's what I love about Sarah's response. She didn't just agree to come back as a grateful employee. She came to that negotiation table with terms that would make any business shark proud. 40% ownership, a voting seat on the board, executive director title, equal to or higher than Jessica's, full control over the Everpine project if it could be salvaged. "I've kept this company running for nearly a decade, got it through 3 major crises. You've been back 11 months, 7 of which were spent doing long lunches and tweaking PowerPoint colors," Sarah told Jessica. "If the family wants me to rescue the legacy they threw away, they'll pay the price. I'm not doing charity anymore." The negotiation was swift. Sarah's father agreed to her terms, transferring 40% of his shares directly to her. Jessica kept 35%, their mother got 25%. Sarah walked out of that lawyer's office with a signed agreement and her head held high. 2 weeks later, Sarah returned to the company, but not as the forgotten daughter. This time, her name was engraved on a brass plaque. Chief Operating Officer, Sarah Morgan, co-owner, 40% stake. She restructured everything, ended the unpaid late-night work culture, instituted clear work-week policies, made meetings short, transparent, and effective. Jessica was limited to her actual expertise, branding and communications, while Sarah oversaw operations, finance, and strategy. Most importantly, Sarah rebuilt client trust. Within 3 months, they'd re-signed Everpine with expanded scope, worth an additional $2 million. Former clients returned. New investors pitched partnership offers. Today, Sarah sits in her own office, not her father's, but one she designed herself. On the wall, she's framed the very first sketch she made for Everpine, coffee-stained and crumpled, from when her father had dismissed it. Next to it hangs a note from Eleanor. "Your consistency is what kept everything standing." Sarah looks at that frame every day as a reminder that not everyone sees your worth from the start. But if you stay firm and know your value, eventually, you'll be the one holding the wheel. She's no longer the forgotten daughter, standing in someone else's spotlight. She's Sarah Morgan, the woman who didn't wait to be given power, but claimed it herself. This story hits different because it shows us something crucial about family dynamics and workplace politics. Sometimes the people closest to us are the ones most likely to take our contributions for granted. They assume we'll always be there, always be loyal, always clean up their mistakes. But here's what Sarah understood that many of us struggle with. Your worth isn't determined by how others treat you. It's determined by how you treat yourself. When you finally say enough and set real boundaries, you don't just save yourself. You redefine what's possible. True power doesn't come from a title or a family name. It comes from the courage to stand up and demand what you've earned. Sarah didn't just reclaim her position. She created an entirely new dynamic, where her value was legally recognized and protected. So, what do you think? Would you have done the same thing in Sarah's shoes? Could you walk away from a decade of work, even knowing it might destroy everything? Or would you have fought differently? Drop your thoughts below. I genuinely want to know how you'd handle this kind of betrayal. And if this story resonated with you, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible real-life stories about people who refused to settle for less than they deserved. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next.